All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. So today, my name is Elizabeth Lawn, and I am the immigration lawyer that's been retained by Canadore to help with its immigration law policies with its students and staff. And we also are joined today by Sarah Hillel and Leanne Bittiol from Canadore College as well. Um, we've had a lot of questions about this exciting new program called RCIP in North Bay. And we're so happy that you can join us today. Just a bit of housekeeping. We have the session is being recorded, and we will send everyone who has registered a copy of the recording as well as the slides. Also, for those of you who are here, uh, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A button on the bottom of the screen, and we will try to get through as many questions as we can at the end of the session. All right, let's get started. So, what is the RCIP program? The RCIP program is the Rural Community Immigration Pilot. And there are quite a lot of advantageous factors to this program. First of all, there's only 14 communities in all of Canada that are participating in this, and North Bay is one of them. And the selection percentage is really high. You guys probably have heard about the crazy numbers that Express Entry is selecting these days, and provincial nominee programs have been slashed by half. Well, the RCIP programs, especially now when the programs are quite new, it seems like most of the applications that are submitted have been getting selected if they qualify. So it's a really good program right now compared to other programs. There's a very, very low requirement on language. The students who go to school at Canadore College should have no problem passing the language requirements, which are at CLB 4 to 6, depending on the tier. And the PR processing time, it's a new program. And certainly this is just my estimate, but it's probably going to be around a year, which comparatively to other programs are pretty good, especially if they do get selected. And the employer-specific work permits are available to them when they are waiting for their permanent residence, as well as spousal work permits are also available. And there is a specific advantage to studying at a 2-year program in Canadore in that no work experience requirement is there if they actually study in the 2-year program in Canadore. All right, so let's go through some of the details about how everything works. First, let's talk about the process. So the first process is it's with the community, we have to go through the community, and with the community, it's all about the employer. It's an employer-driven application. So the employer first will apply for employer designation, where they have to show that they have a job offer, identified someone who they want to offer a job in one of the 25 priority occupations. And uh, once they are designated, though, they're designated for life. Okay, so later on, if there's another, they want to invite another person, they wouldn't have to go through the employer designation. The only time that they're not going to be for life is if they're removed because they didn't comply with the program. Okay. Um, so that's the first step, employer designation. Like I said, once they've been designated, they don't need to go through it again. And this designation process doesn't take very long, and there's not much that they have to do. They submit their information, submit the form. They go through an online training that takes, a little bit of time to do. And then if they qualify, they are designated. The next step is they would submit the application, and it's an employer driven application where the employer submits the information from the applicant and also the job offer to the community. And the selection in North Bay is once a month, and so they select 25 applications each month. And then once you receive the community selection, then the applicant, the individual, will apply to IRCC for their permanent residence. And this is where they have to prove their qualifications for the program. And also, they can apply for a work permit and a spousal work permit while they're waiting for their permanent residence. So let's talk about what the employers have to do to qualify. So first of all, the employer is located within the North Bay RCIP area boundary. There's some specifications as to where they qualify, but within the North Bay area boundary, and they do have to have a physical office. It could be a shared office space as long as they're working from the office space, but it can't be something where it's just a virtual office. They're not actually there. The employer has to have operated continuously for at least 2 years. If they have not, North Bay does have an exception where if they've invested 500,000 into the business, if it's a new business in the community, it's a viable business, they may consider it as well. 75% of the business is conducted in the community. They really want these businesses to be based and located in North Bay. And the job offer is, like I said, one of the 25 priority occupations. So I've put a link in here and I'll send out the slides to everyone. Okay, and you can take a look at what the priority occupations are. These can change once a year. So, for example, if an employer sees that, oh, someone that they really need, that's not one of the occupations, they wouldn't be able to apply right away, but they can, send North Bay the information that they really need someone, and they'll consider it to change it next time. And they have to undergo the online training. It doesn't seem to be very onerous. They just need to go through an online training and then they can be designated. Okay. Now let's look at the applicant's qualifications. First of all, they are there's a selection grid where they get a number of points based on, and this is for the North Bay. I put the link right there. Okay. The more points they have, if there's more than 25 applications for that month, the ones with a higher score, the highest scores will be selected. Okay. Other than that, there are federal requirements. So first of all, if they have that 2-year program or a master's program in the North Bay post-secondary institution like Canadore College. So if it is, and these programs are listed some of the conditions of these programs as well, but this gives the students a big advantage if they have not worked before. If they have worked before, or even if they're working while they are studying, we can use the work experience there. The part-time work experience would add together to be a full-time work experience, but it has to be they have to be employed. They can't use self-employed work. Okay. And it's 1 year of related work experience. The related work experience, it doesn't have to be in the same occupation. It's tier specific. And there's different criteria. For example, if it's a tier 0, it could be tier 1, 2, 3, or tier 1, it could be tier, 0, 1, 2. I can't remember the exact tiers for each one. It changes for each tier, but it's based on tiers, not occupations for the related work experience. Remember, again, with that 2-year program, they're exempt for that. And then there is the English or French test, which is very, very low. Um, and I think most students need a tier 7 to go to school. So almost all of them should be able to pass that, no problem. High school education and the settlement funds, which are waived if they're already working in Canada on a work permit. So, all of this makes the program very attractive to a lot of people who may have trouble getting selected through express entry. Um, this is really community based, and that is really what makes Canadore College such an attractive, place. I tell so many of my clients who are coming to me and saying, I just want to get permanent residence. I want to stay in Canada after I study. Where should I go to study? Well, Canadore College is one of the best places to go because of the fact that there is such an advantage with the RCIP to go there. Some of the other advantages on the immigration side as well is the OINP. There are this is the provincial nominee program for Ontario, and in Ontario, for the employer-based streams, for example, um, Ontario's provincial nominee program has its own selection grid, and Ontario gives 10 points, which is very significant in its own scoring system, 10 points to those who study in Northern Ontario. Comparatively, for those who are studying in Toronto, University of Toronto, guess how many points you get for that? 0. Okay, so those points are very significant. You also get 10 points if it's a job offer in Northern Ontario compared to a job offer in Toronto, 0, right? So those are very, very significant. And we have seen also in the recent draws this year that they specifically invited people who are in Northern Ontario communities. So it didn't even matter if you had a higher score and you're in Toronto, you wouldn't have been selected. However, if you had this job offer in Northern Ontario, you may have been selected just because of where you're located, irrespective of even, I mean, your scores, I think, may have sometimes played a role, but in this case, they really just wanted people who were in Northern Ontario in certain occupations. Um, this year, the federal government cut provincial nominee program numbers by half. And so the province has had to basically make a lot of changes. One of the changes the province has done is in fact said that they will want to allow them, they just changed the legislation to allow them to withdraw or the invitations and to return applications that have been submitted before and they were talking about doing that for people from last year. Hopefully they don't. But what this means is that where someone studies, because the emphasis right now in Ontario is location, 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 where someone studies can mean a huge factor in their ability to get permanent residence. Um, Also, I just wanted to mention work permit extensions. Last year, the government made a lot of changes with regard to the labor market impact assessments. These are the LMIAs are the ways in which people can extend their work permits once their post-grad work permit expires. It remains probably one of the only ways for most students to do so. And it will require their employer to offer them a job And that salary is the one that comes into question. So the government has basically not allowed for most centers, most cities in Canada, the ability for the employers to hire anyone below a median wage that they have announced. For example, in Ontario, they just raised that wage to $36 an hour. So anyone who is offered under $36, for the most part, wouldn't be able to get an LMIA in cities like Toronto, Vancouver, even Sudbury. However, North Bay is one of those that are exempt from this. So if an employer wanted to hire someone who has a salary of $24, as long as that meets the median wage for the occupation, then it is possible still to do LMIA. Okay. So we have some time for some questions right now. I just wanted to let you know this is my our law firm's contact information. If you have further questions, please feel free to contact me. And we also do a lot of work with social media, so feel free to follow us on our social media. Um, uh, what I tell you guys today is true today, but the way that immigration law works in Canada is it changes all the time. It probably won't be true in a month from now, or something is going to change. So what we'll do is we are going to put everyone um, who has registered into a email list where we're going to be emailing you guys changes to immigration law that may affect you or your clients. Feel free to unsubscribe if you don't find it useful, but for the most part, we do find that people like to receive some of these updates to the news. Okay. All right. So if you have some questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A button, and I'll do my best to answer them. I think we have a couple right now. Sarah, did you want to go through them?
Yeah, sure. We have a question from Lucy. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
if we had the designation for the RNIP, assuming we would have to do it again for the new RCIP,
Mm-hmm.
not i.e. not transferable between the old and new program.
That's right. The RNIP is done. They have to go through the RCIP, but really through North Bay, the process seemed to be very, very simple. It was an email, and they do the training online, and it doesn't seem to be very onerous, and it doesn't seem to be very long at all.
All right, we have a second question from Vitor. I really like the OINP process. Do you think it would be the easiest way?
It really depends on the individual. The and if I had to choose, for example, between someone who could qualify for the RNIP and someone who could qualify for the OINP, I would likely choose the RNIP. Sorry, RCIP. Sorry, wrong program. RCIP and the OINP. I'll probably choose the RCIP because of the fact that OINP, we just put someone in the pool. We have no idea whether or not they're going to be invited. And now the government has said even if someone is invited, they can always return their application afterwards. Whereas the RCIP, you basically go through it, you're selected, you apply for your permanent residence, if you can get selected. Certainly, if you don't know if you can get selected for RCIP, I might put you into two different pools. But in general, the RCIP program is a very good program.
All right, there's a question from Ruth. She thanks you for the presentation, and she asks if the 1+1 graduate programs qualify for the 2-year requirement for the.
No, they have said it's the 2-year program. So it's either a master's, you can do a master's that's less than the 2-year, or you have to get the 2-year programs. But listen, if they only have the 1 year, they can work, and even the work experience that they have while they're part-time studying, part-time work experience, that could be enough to be added together. So it's not necessarily that they couldn't participate in the RCIP. It's just that the work experience is not waived if they do the 1+1.
All
All
right. That's it for now. We don't have any more questions.
Excellent. Well, I so happy that oh, we have one more. Okay.
Yeah. The question is, what if students study two diplomas continuously?
If one of those diplomas was a 2-year program, then that's okay. But you just don't get the credit for like 1+1.
All right. And another question is about the part-time experience during study counts in the RCIP.
Yes, yes. It was confirmed that it does.
All right, we have a question from Laura Lopez. It's related to linking programs at Canadore. We will be sending you the answer, or if you could drop an email to the agentsrelations@canadorecollege.ca, and we link you with our admissions team so they can answer that question for you. We are not going to be able to answer any admission related questions here.
Mhm.
We have a question from Shensi. Can can they get 3 years work permit?
So that's with regard to the post-grad work permit. 1+1 could, but you have to be very careful that the second program is a post-grad work permit field of study related as well.
All right, another question has come in. Regarding the RCIP application process, could you please share what the average processing time looks like once the application is submitted, and are there any common delays or tips to ensure a faster decision?
I think the community is quite fast. The community, they do make a decision every month. So if you, as long as, you can be one of those 25 applications that they approve, that's very fast. It's, every month, basically, it can be done. Like the designated employer, I think can be done in a matter of few days. And they have one officer working there and she's very busy. She's very good, but she's very busy. So once she gets to the application for the designation, she'll respond and get it done. And then submitting the application there. The question is the federal government. We don't know how long the federal government is going to be because it's a new program. My estimation, because this is a brand new program, normally the brand new programs, they are decided faster and then it starts to slow down as more applications build up. My estimate is probably going to be around a year or so in the first while, but who knows? We don't know for sure.
Okay, another question. According to the PGWP requirements, will 1+1 programs be granted 3 years PGWP like 2-year programs?
Well, that I just answered that. 1+1 is still qualifies as long as that second program also meets the field of study requirement.
Okay, RCIP announced that the district of Parry Sound is an eligible location. If students who graduated from Canadore Parry Sound campus can be exempted from the work experience as well.
If it is an eligible location, I don't know, but if it is an eligible location, then it should be.
Okay. Um, do you know the occupations that have priority for the RCIP?
Yes, I included that in the link in my slides, and I'll send those slides to everyone who has registered. All right. Are we
Sounds
done?
good.
We're done. Right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope that was helpful. And yeah, like I said, Canadore, it is fantastic place, wonderful people, and the immigration is really an advantage for students to go.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for the informative session, and thank you, everybody, for attending.
My pleasure. Take care, everyone.
Bye.